So, when did you originally get into home theater? I mean, what would you trace it back to, the first thing that got you into it?
Well, the first thing that got me into home theater was since I'm a guy from the '70s. I watched Star Wars back when it originally was released, and ever since that day, watching it in 70 millimeter with the six-track audio, it's something that I always wished to have. And when I finally was able to do it back in the early '80s, I started out with a pair of Bose speakers and a Sony receiver with fake surround, and that's what got me started.
Wow. And that has evolved quite a bit, into the theater that we see today. How many stages would you say home theater went through?
Well, I started buying my first videos in a place called Video Shack in New York, where they used to sell Laserdisc and RCA CED. I started with the RCA CED video disc, and from there moved on to videotape, Laserdisc, and then eventually DVD. I have a 4K equipped theater. I still do Blu-rays. Majority of my movies are on Blu-ray, but I have a decent amount of 4Ks, which sometimes I feel they could look fantastic, and other times not so good.
So, I see there's a JVC projector up there, and you had mentioned that you do your own calibration. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I got into the calibration part of it. I started actually with CRT projectors. I had an NEC CRT projector, and I always loved the black levels that you can get out of CRT. So when digital came out, it took a long time for me to convert over to a digital projector because I just didn't feel the blacks. I was able to get the black level that you can get out of CRT.
The system is set up maybe not in what you would consider a typical home theater configuration. So let's talk about that for a bit.
Well, when I first got into it, I was a two channel stereo kind of guy. There wasn't much surround sound when I first got into this, so I was always the kind of guy who said, if you can get good two channel stereo speakers that give you the sound that you're looking for, you could always start from there and then extend. And at the time when I got into it, there was no center channels. There was really no subwoofers. It was about getting a good full frequency speaker, and that's what got me into the Vandersteins because I wanted good two channel.
Do you currently use them in two channel, or do you use surround sound when you listen to music in this system?
I have just two channels for music. I do listen to some SACDs that are 5.1, but a lot of my listening and most of my listening when I listen to music is two channel.
So the system that you use for this, it is basically configured to do both, or is it two separate like amplification and processing chains?
No, I have the same amplification. I have a two channel preamplifier, which has a home theater bypass. So that's how I use it when I have the Marantz processor set up for surround sound.
The Vandersteins, what model are they?
I have the Vandersteen 3A signatures.
And they're pretty well known for their bass capabilities. But next to them, I see a pair of SVS PB16 Ultra, which are some really hardcore subs. So, what do you think of those? And what did you upgrade from?
Originally, I had a complete Vandersteen system. I had a pair of V2Ws that I would use on the LFE output of the Marantz, but I wanted a little bit more output, a little bit more clean, tight, deep bass, and it was difficult to find a pair of subwoofers that could actually outperform the V2Ws, which I had, which are three 8-inch subs, but always felt like those subs were nice and tight in the low end and gave me really good bass. But when the PB16 Ultras came out, I took a listen and I kind of like fell in love with them immediately. And you can't just have one; you got to have two. So I decided to switch over from the Vandersteen V2Ws to the PB16s.
And is that your most recent addition to the home theater?
That is the most recent, and quite expensive upgrade, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
When you listen to music, what kind of sources do you use?
When I listen just to two-channel music, I just listen to my Air amplifier and the preamp and just the Vandersteen 3As.
Sure. And are you listening to digital music, streaming, CDs, records?
I listen to vinyl. I listen to CDs. I listen to streaming. I listen to all kinds of music. It doesn't matter as long as it's a good recording. That's all that matters.
Cool. And can you tell me in what ways AVS Forum has influenced these decisions that you've made for this home theater?
Well, the AVS Forum, when I got into it, you always go in there just to see what's going on and to see what people are up to and what's the latest and greatest product that's out there. And I use it as a reference. I mean, before we used to use magazines, Video Magazine, Sounded Vision, which is still around, Home Theater Magazine, Video Facts, all these magazines that we used to use to get as reference. But now you can go to a source where there's so many members and get that information. So it kind of like eliminated the magazine part of it. But I get a lot of information. A lot of members that are a part of the AVS Forum are very knowledgeable, and it's a great source. It's really a great source for home theater.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to some demos. What do you have lined up?
Well, we're going to start out with some 4K stuff for the sound on the 4K. We got a little bit of Mad Max, of course. We got a little bit of Hacksaw Ridge, which is a good one. Some Star Trek. So we have a few titles there to watch.
Okay, and this is going to include Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, it's difficult to see in the ceiling because my ceiling is black. But yes, there are Dolby Atmos speakers up there that are Vandersteens as well.
Okay, so all the speakers in the system, Vandersteen.
Vandersteen all around except for the subs.
And when we watch home theater, are you using the Odyssey room correction on the Marantz?
Yeah, the Marantz, the 8802A I have is I'm using the correction for Odyssey, which I think does a great job.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and be sure to subscribe to this channel.